Have you ever wondered why did Radeon R9 290 went to therapy? Because it had a cooling complex. Okay, jokes aside. Recently I came across this GIGABYTE Radeon R9 290 in Facebook Marketplace, listed for €80. Despite the fact that AMD discontinued driver support for this card back in the 2022, I wrote the owner and offered €30 for the card, and he agreed. So now I'm stuck with R9 290 4GB version. Or am I? Yes, I am, because only a handful R9 290s came with UEFI BIOS. As you know, Windows 11 needs one, so I was stuck for 2 days trying to flash UEFI BIOS. But I had enough of this BS, and I cracked Windows 11 so it can be installed with CSM support, or other words, legacy BIOS. But before we get into benchmarks, let me tell you about this AMD Radeon R9 290, and especially this, because previous owner made some old school upgrade about heating issue. He soldered PCB power pins together, resulting that card can work with only single 6-pin connector, so card can take less power, what means less heat. This shouldn't affect benchmark results, because I will plug both power cables in the card. And talking more about this graphics card, R9 290 came with Hawaii graphic processor, 2560 shading units, 4GB of GDDR5 memory, 512-bit bus width, and impressive 275W TDP, what resulting with high idling temps. But back in the 2013, to be exact, this was a high-end card with a dual BIOS switch. But now, we will see how it holds up in 1080p gaming in 2024. In Forza Horizon 5, R9 was staying strong. In 1080p medium preset, VSync and motion blur off, I turned on 2x MSAA for those crispy edges. So card was averaging about 56 FPS, but it felt like more 68 frames per second, and minimum was 38 FPS, but maximum was 105 FPS, and 1% low was 37 FPS. What can I say more? It's impressive for 11-year-old graphics card. And here's a tip if you want to get little boost in FPS. I managed to get average 76 FPS when I turned Fidelity FX to performance setting. But you will sacrifice those crispy edges and sharpness. Basically, game will look blurry. In Counter-Strike 2, on 1080p resolution with combined settings, more to lower side, but Fidelity FX was on disabled for better quality. And with that card averaged 190 FPS, where minimum was 85 FPS and maximum was 170 FPS, and 1% low was only 83 FPS. Maybe here and there was little stutters, but game was very playable. With GTA 5, card even managed to do very well without any stutters in high graphics preset, but with motion blur and VSync turned off. In GTA, average frame rate was 126, minimum frame rate was 82, but maximum was very hot 268 frames per second, and 1% low was 79 FPS. But in PUBG, I needed to crank all settings to low, and some even to very low, to get playable game without stutters in hot drops. In PUBG, average frame rate was 90, but minimum was low as 0 frames per second. In less populated areas, card managed to get maximum of 141 FPS, and 1% low was also 0. In Shadow of the Tomb Raider, graphics settings was set to normal preset, VSync and motion blur turned off as always, and Fidelity FX enabled. Shadow of the Tomb Raider managed to get average about 75 FPS, where minimum frame rate was as low as 8 FPS, but in some areas maximum frame rate spiked to even 336 frames per second, and 1% low was 16 FPS. And now with a little bit harder stuff. In 3D Mark, times by 1080p resolution and VSync of R9 averaged about 41 frames per second. Now with little bit lighter benchmark, Heaven benchmark. In high preset and anisotropic filtering set to X2, card averaged 95 FPS. Minimum was 0.7 FPS and the maximum was 173 FPS, where 1% low was 23 FPS. Not bad, but not too great to run Heaven benchmark in ultra preset, because there is little bit of stuttering when changing scenes. So I sticked with high preset for stable and smooth graphics. So, my conclusion for R9 290. First things first. What about heat? Yes, this card constantly overheats, and even in idle, card sits in 78 degrees. But for heat issue, there is easy fix. And no, it's not related to soldering power pins together. You just need to adjust fan curve in MSC Afterburner. But then you will sacrifice quiet, because card gets really loud. But now, with this card, at idle sits at 57 degrees and on load max 72 degrees. But there is one more question. Is this card worth buying? I will say, not exactly. Go catch for 30 bucks. But if you can go get better deal than 30 euros and you don't mind to stay with Windows 10 and noisy red hot brick in cold winter days, I'd say grab it, because despite driver support, it holds there with RX 570. Of course in the future, maybe not in the far future, but 4 GB will be the limiting point. After these tests, I can only say that this GPU can get away with anything, because from how it looks. Thank you for watching, and comment down below what games I should test with this card, or maybe I should overclock this beast. But if you like to see more videos like this, click subscribe button, I really appreciate it. And if you like R9 design, click like.